First of all, people who reflect upon their lives is an indication of security of attachment. Certainly not the only variable, but you can find folks that sort of refuse to reflect, have difficulty reflecting, shut down the reflection, are very guarded in the reflection, or when they are doing the reflection, they get lost in it and they take these dips and turns and get sort of distracted. And those are sort of indications of the insecurity of attachment.
So in this series, we're examining the attachment themes strewn throughout the FX Hulu show, The Bear. We will be discussing in detail each episode as the story unfolds, so that you can watch or rewatch before you listen and then follow along with our discussion. We have seen all the episodes, but we won't discuss any content beyond the episodes we're discussing. So if you haven't seen the show, press pause now, go watch, and hop back on to the podcast.
Hello, Michael.
Already reached for your drink.
Uh-huh.
We are back with Attachment for the People
There we are.
and doing another lovely cocktail.
Yeah, we got the perfect Manhattan, which we made before, but it's perfect, so got to bring it back again. Nice. You're drinking bourbon at home.
Oh yeah, I've been drinking bourbon from home for some time, but as you noted, it's usually a post-dinner drink.
Yeah, it's a pre-dinner drink for me.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I've been out with friends who drink that way too.
Yeah.
Friends, because you're not friends. You don't go out. But
Wow. You don't have other friends.
don't tell no lie.
Um,
I won't tell no truths about you.
yes. But this is a good one, and we'll have it posted.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, the perfect Manhattan. It's not because of perfection, but it is just it's a mixture of dry vermouth, sweet vermouth, a rye whiskey, and then some bitters. And it makes it taste quite perfectly.
I do have a question though.
Yeah.
Why is it served in a coupe and not
Okay.
in an old fashioned with a block of ice? Are old fashions never served that way? I thought they were.
Oh, well, this isn't an old fashioned.
Maybe that's the issue. I so get old fashions and
Manhattan's mixed up.
mixed up.
You can get a Manhattan with a rock, and it would come in a lowball glass. But most people get it straight up without ice. Today we are speaking on season 2, episode 4 of The Bear, titled Honeydew. How is it The Honeydew?
No, it's Honeydew.
Oh,
I know.
you wrote it wrong.
No, I didn't. It's title fuck. I just wrote what are you gonna do with the honeydew. Yeah.
And the reality is we have no idea because we see no honeydew in the film.
Even though there may be in the dessert somewhere somehow.
Yeah, I don't think so though.
Well, yeah, I agree. I don't know what that, it seems like it's pineapple that
He said it's pineapple because he had to thin it out with more pineapple because it was too thick. So who knows? I think maybe it's the honeydew of like the honeydews. Maybe it's a play on word and all the work they're doing, having to get done at the Bear. But again, we are stumped with the title of the season.
no research.
Yeah.
On that.
No Reddit.
I didn't.
But this one is a really, it's a sweet episode. There's not a lot of drama in it.
There's like almost none.
Almost none.
And it's sequestered into one place.
Yeah.
Back to the Bear.
The drama is. Yeah. And that's because we have one of our securely attached, who we think is securely attached members, it's focused on him. You're giggling. You're waiting on me to say something. I was starting to trip.
We think that one reason, conscious or otherwise, intentionally or otherwise, that this episode is so characterized by sweetness, desserts, and serenity, the B-roll.
For those who don't know what B-roll is. Yeah, I don't know the actual definition. I just know it as extra footage.
I'm assuming
This
it's like the B side. It's not the single that you're releasing, which is on the A side. It's the B side. So it's just extra.
Look at you. I don't know.
I don't know
But-
either. I'm just
All right,
surmising. But
Aaron, help us out. But yes, so there's a lot of serenity, lovely landscapes of Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Which, have you been to Copenhagen? You say no. You dropped in our episode a while back ago, like when I lived in Africa, and now I've been to Italy. But yes, so I haven't either, and it looks beautiful.
Wow.
They did great B-roll. And yes, so Marcus is been sent over by the team, by Carmi and Sid, and his adventure is to go create 3 desserts. 3 because that's what's lacking in a good restaurant. And so he's excited about his journey, which I think
He's also nervous.
he is nervous.
It's similar to being excited. But
Aren't they one and the same? No.
I mean, they're different appraisals, even though they are very similar in the body.
Yeah.
In body, they feel and register very similar. Increased heart rate, shallow breathing, quickening breathing, dilated pupils. Whether you're having sex, exercising, or having a panic attack, the body
It's doing the same thing.
Yeah. And in any way, stopped.
Yeah. So, Marcus, I'm going to regroup. He's exploring, which is really exciting. And he's excited about it. He's also nervous about it. And he's leaving his mom one of the first times since she's been hospitalized or in intensive care. And he's having some feelings about it. What do you think? What would you say about the fact that we think he's securely attached for many reasons? In previous episodes, he's able to stay collected, have organized thought, not get too flustered. He doesn't ratchet things up. He doesn't calm things down to a dismissive level. And here he's talking to his mother's caregiver nurse, and you can see him getting worked up of like, don't forget this. But do you know this? Can you do this? What are you looking at?
First of all, for the people that are just listening to us, you didn't have to comment on that. It's only the people watching on YouTube. Follow us on YouTube.
Follow us on YouTube.
The number of times I have been in this hollowed place with, and you, of all people, had in the middle of our conversation been like, "Oh, the hawk," and the hawk just landed like literally right there, and I'm trying to keep one eye.
I looked as if it happened.
Oh, it did, and then it just flew off there.
Oh, okay.
So I was watching it.
Oh,
But it was
nice.
literally right there. It was beautiful.
It was Fred.
And I was really trying to stay present with you in this very interesting.
But I was just talking and you're just zooming around the room.
So it was literally, it was right there. It's beautiful.
Mm.
I'm a sucker for
Big Bird.
Big Bird. Oh, I guess I found my Halloween outfit.
There we go. Nice.
Yes.
Where was I? Where did I leave off, Michael?
Left off with babbling about how securely attached Marcus is.
Securely attached is kind of boring sometimes.
Oh my gosh, you're not wrong about that
Yeah.
on some level
Mm-hmm.
in our line of work. But yeah, Marcus is so comfortable not only exploring, which is part of the point of attachment, is to enable the child, now that they are 2 years of age, now they can walk and talk and really explore the world, which is quite dangerous. But that is part of the point of attachment, is to enable the necessary exploration.
Yeah, that's how we grow.
To grow. Yeah, that's right. and fail in that growth and exploration and testing and struggling. And then to also have the closeness of secure bases, support groups, supportive systems, caregivers. Yeah. And so Marcus, I think in this episode, the whole episode is just a great demonstration of Marcus as the one particularly securely attached character that we've identified in our mind. Going on a trip, yet making those phone calls back to his secure base, whether that's Sydney, whether that's Facken,
or actually to his mother. And it's a risk. He's risking potentially something happening with mom.
Oh, sure.
While he's gone.
There's that risk. There's the risk of not learning the 3 great desserts. There's the risk of it being boring or being rejected. Sure, all that.
Yeah.
Yet it's not that. It doesn't happen that way. And
it doesn't consume his mind that way.
Sure, that's right. He's not. He doesn't buckle under the weight and fear of and worry
failing.
Yeah, of the risk, and instead is empowered. Yeah, I think we're probably going to talk about that security of attachment in several different ways as we look down some of our things we want to talk about.
But let's review like security of attachment itself. It's been a while since it's been at least, 10 episodes. Wow, look at us. We've done things. The secure. What are some of the hallmarks of secure attachment?
Yeah, I think an easy way of thinking about security of attachment is these 2 core principles. Security of attachment enables us to be comfortable with close, intimate relationships and makes us comfortable with distance and separation of relationships.
Right, because we have a security of base.
That's right.
That allows us to further explore because we have that safety.
That sense of safety, that secure base that is internalized, that it is within us. We feel it and experience it wherever we go is the, I think is the blessing and the benefit of security of attachment. So that whether you're moving from one state to another, whether you're off to college, whether you're entering a new romantic relationship or starting a new job or whatever the new adventure is, you're going to carry with you an internal sense of safety and security.
One way I talk about with clients is the ability to carry others in your mind and to know that you exist in others. And sometimes it's not uncommon that I will try to emphasize that in the session as well, by saying, I thought of you this week. Like when you're not here, you still exist in my mind.
Because they do.
Right. Absolutely. I'm not lying. But I am pretty impressed every time I do that and seeing the relief and their body change, especially if they're highly dysregulated. That can be seemingly, in my experience, a very comforting experience to know like, oh, I do exist, both in your mind and in relationship here.
I know that it's also sometimes difficult for patients to really believe and trust how true that is.
Yeah.
That we do carry them in our minds. We think about them. We reflect on them. Something in our week reminds us of them. Talk to colleagues and discuss our work and discuss our work with them. They even come to mind with work with other patients. And I can appreciate why that is, why patients can have a difficult time really trusting that that's true.
Sure.
Trusting whether that's done in a benevolent and loving way,
Mhm.
rather than, oh, you're thinking about me and judging me, or you're thinking about me saying, I hope they leave.
What I've gotten recently is like, you're not thinking about me. Like, you're here, you're thinking about me now because I'm paying you. And that deflection goes on.
Yeah.
And sure, I have to make a living, but and you also exist in my mind outside of here.
Yeah. Yeah. So that insecurity of attachment makes it very difficult to trust the trustworthiness of that.
Yeah.
Even if it's really true, you know. And when you carry within you that sense that people are thinking about you, that people remember you, it makes it easier to explore and take the good risks.
Yeah.
Even if those risks lead to failure.
Well, I think there's something about like, I won't be forgotten.
Yeah, that's right. I'm unforgettable.
Right.
In not in a destructive.
And maybe that's, we weren't going to talk about this, but I'm going to. The biker in this scene, maybe that's part of what that was about. The biker who was trapped under a fence and couldn't move it, and so was trapped there, injured. And maybe that's part of what that represented, is that you exist and people know you, people see you.
Yeah, and in the form of, and people will come and help you.
Right.
People, when you're in a time of need, the help will come. And that's what Marcus embodied.
Right.
Is the help, the care, the support, the assistance.
So yeah, that's, and I even appreciate between you and I, like we often will share with each other via text or Facebook, Instagram memes and stuff of that nature. But part of what that relationship dynamic is I know that I exist in your mind and that you exist in mine. Yeah. Like when I see something inappropriate, I'm like, Michael's got to see this. He's got to. How you exist in my mind?
That our social media consumption has synced. And so we're, most of the time we've already seen what we've sent each
Right. Our algorithms are the same.
Yeah. We're watching the same thing, I think.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, Michael's let's send them the same feeds.
It is. It's so true.
That's precious.
All right. So let's keep going with it. Well, anything else about secure attachment? I think one thing I usually like to talk about is the secure attachment has a positive view of self and a positive view of self and a positive view of other. So they hold others in high regard. They also have a good self-esteem and able to believe in themselves as well.
Yeah, I rarely think in those terms, except for your influence on me, and I appreciate that languaging. Yeah. Security of attachment also affords us this capacity to not really get dysregulated, emotionally dysregulated, either in the form of underregulated or in the form of overregulated.
Right.
So that we still feel our feelings, but they're managed, they're regulated, and they don't compromise our capacity to think or reflect decision making.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like even when he's working with a biker, like helping him, he doesn't overly freak out. He obviously has concern, but is able to respond and engage, which is part of
by his condition. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm making so many noises over here. Trying not to.
So one way we see that is Marcus is nervous.
Yes.
And he's nervous in several different contexts and in several different ways. And he's very comfortable expressing or sharing or revealing that he's nervous.
Right. There's not a sense of shame.
No, we get no sense that he's ashamed, that he's nervous or anxious or worried about leaving his mom and being in another country. And so he's getting all nervous about it, and he's revved up.
He's talking to Christy, the mother's caregiver. And she, well, there's not really room to judge it, but she seemingly did a really good job of saying, I got it. normalizing, I get why you're nervous. It makes sense. And it'll be okay. Everything you're telling me, I already know. We're going to be here. I'm available. I've got this. You're allowed to go and play. You're allowed to go and explore.
Yeah. So she does a wonderful job in the regulating or the participation in the regulation or the co-regulating, as we often say. The other piece, though, to that is that Marcus is also very regulatable. And again, that's what security of attachment is for. It's why we want to promote that in ourselves and in each other, why we want to help parents be securely attached in and of themselves, so they can then create that security of attachment in their children, is because when they inevitably get upset, which life will hand you a set of circumstances invariably that is gonna make you upset, sad upset, angry upset, worried upset.
Right.
And your capacity to be soothed is part of that dance. That is part of that dynamic of
well, I think part of what you're saying is that it's completely normal, even if we're securely attached, to get jostled by life, to get nervous, to get fearful, to get sad.
Or extremely upset.
Right.
Under an extreme situation.
Right.
The murder of your child, the murder of
wow, that went dark quick. Okay.
That's the reality of people's lives.
I hope for not many, but yes, it's true.
Sure, but it is unfortunately many. And whether that's also the death through some sort of natural disaster, right?
Right.
Or the shocking, disastrous sort of cancer diagnosis. You know, whatever life is going to bring, because life's going to bring.
Right. It's extremely appropriate to have a reaction and to feel.
That is extreme. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that security of attachment allows and facilitates the capacity to be comforted, to be soothed, to be regulated.
Right.
Without being under-regulated and without being over-regulated.
So we're really highlighting that even with Marcus's security of attachment, he can have those ups and downs. He can have feelings about missing his mother, worried about his mother, fearful that he might be gone and something happen. It's very normal. Doesn't put him into an anxious attachment, doesn't put him into a dismissive attachment, or disorganized, sorry.
You can even have those sort of guilt feelings that sort of creep up of, I'm feeling guilty that I'm in Denmark exploring for work while my mother's ill and I'm not there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that was with Christy. With Luca, the other chef, Lucas, some guy with great hair, whatever. He also presented a nervousness. But what was beautiful about it is he was unashamed of it. I find myself of like, oh, don't show you're nervous. Like, you got to prove yourself. Like, I'm confident, I'm competent. Let's go. And yeah, pretend, fake it till you make it. Like, but look the part. And
as a pause.
Yeah.
For some situations, that's really the right strategy.
Example?
Well, working with other insecurely attached folks, folks that aren't safe, institutions, organizations that are not going to receive your need for some reassurance, understanding. I want to highlight the sort of normative and adaptive and survival nature of the insecurity of attachments.
Yeah.
And why we use them and utilize them well into adulthood.
Well, and to that point, starting a new job and your resume is pretty beefed up, you're going to want to look competent and capable. And he does break because he lies about knowing how to make, I can't say it, whatever it was, And he was like, of course. And he's off looking up how to make it.
And then in come the actual directions from.
Right. But I think part of the secure attachment there was he didn't freak out. Be like, I was caught. No. I knew it. And it didn't have to go through a big ornate thing. It was just like, yeah, you're right. I didn't know. It's only me. I wanted to impress you. I didn't want to look weak. I did whatever.
Yeah. Even though earlier he had already been sharing how nervous he was. Tweezering
which I did have feelings about. I do want to diverge real quick. It's one of my favorite t-shirts that exist or slogans that exist. Because we're in Dallas, Texas. Austin, Texas has a slogan that says, keep Austin weird.
Yeah.
And
Austin, for folks that aren't from Texas.
That's true.
Austin tends to be the place where there's lots of art, countercultural. It's more liberal than a very conservative.
It's a very blue and a red state.
That's right. And you got a music scene, a long history of a music scene.
Yeah.
And hippies and...
Right. And there's a counter to that for Dallas, and it says, keep Dallas pretentious. And it just feeds my soul. Yes, I love it.
True.
Yes.
Especially Dallas's way of reacting to everybody else. So compensatory. That would be
compensatory?
Yeah. It's compensatory.
I think Dallas is pretentious, and I'm here for it. So that's fine. But that dessert he made was pretentious.
That's true. But
it's over the top. It's
that might be true, but so is all fine dining.
Yeah. Whatever. I'm like, that is a 2-bite, if not 1-bite dessert. But the reality is if I'm making it, I'm doing the same. I want precision. I want it to look amazing. I don't get, what do you mean?
Just the way in which we belabor various aspects of the podcast.
In my defense, I have not re-recorded a single episode since the first one.
Okay. Second of all, for those who are just listening to us, Michael Ashenfelter just raised a finger.
They're watching on YouTube. Go to YouTube. We are outdated. They're so the past. Yes. But they're still necessary. Anyhow, let's keep going. We are on a pretentious dessert, and Marcus is secure. Oh, but he was nervous. Yeah.
Nervous but steady.
Yes. And the Luca, we think that's his name, is kind of stone face.
Yeah.
But the introduction of, I know who you are, I'm Luca, your station's over there, we start at 5.
So formal, so stiff,
so
non-relational, so not warm.
Right. Yet Marcus is just like, oh, okay. I'll be at my, I heard Jeff, I'll be at my station at 5 a.m. And then even his direction is like, worse, chef. Do it again. Worse. Again. At the same time, with the brigade, the whole philosophy there, apparently there's just an understanding of this is how we relate. And Marcus knows that because even later on, everything is yes, chef, no chef, heard chef, no explanation, no.
He doesn't take it personal in the sense of that it means something negative about himself. Positive view of self,
yes.
Secure. It's safe, even in the midst of Marcus's repeated failure.
Yeah.
That's security of attachment.
Yeah.
That one can survive and thrive and even be better as a result of failure. What's the gift of failure?
Yeah.
The necessity of failure. It's lovely.
Yeah. So but then him and Luca start to, he almost like wears Luca down because he doesn't stop asking questions, personal questions. And you just see kind of Luca break of like, well, we're here.
Including like the kind of, can I ask you why I should do this?
Why more pineapple?
Oh, wow.
Not just taking the direction.
Why is it why is it a problem that is too thick?
Mm-hmm. And he asked it in a way that is not threatening.
Correct.
It's not defenses of like, I'm wrong and you have to.
No, that's right.
It's just like, oh, tell me more.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the begets of the Christian scriptures, particularly.
Have I not read the Christian scriptures? What are you talking about? The begets, the forgots, the.
There's a whole series of this begets this. And I'm not going to be able to quote it because.
And we both went to Bible school, so it's funny.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. It's not the Beatitudes?
No, it's not the Beatitudes, but
Okay.
anyways, the point being is that security tends to beget security. That's this drawing it out. And so the way that Marcus holds the questions, the way that Marcus offers the disclosures.
He's not threatening. He's not divisive.
He's not threatening.
He's not posturing. Right.
In that kind of way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even with in our minds, he's securely attached, and that can still contain the misstep of falsely representing his capacity or his knowledge that he knows how to do something. Even that, he just recovers so well from it.
Right.
And I don't want to put it all on Marcus doing this, but I know in terms of the dynamic, he pulls from this chef who I am sure has some history with some other kinds of bosses. He pulls a kind response of a gentle, here's the instructions.
Yeah.
And that's that begetting.
And at the same time, I just thought of this. I agree. I don't think we both agree. I'm going to use words. I agree that Luca is not securely attached, likely not securely attached. However, through their storytelling, you can see growth in him, that he's learned along the way of how to accept himself in the midst of others. But we wanted to talk about their dialogue and that scene in particular. And you've studied more succinctly and specifically the adult attachment inventory. My bad. Yeah. The AAI, which is a assessment.
It's the only empirically validated, scientifically, statistically validated way of arriving at a classification of someone's adult attachment.
So someone who just goes online for a free attachment revealing, it's just bullshit.
I wouldn't say that it's just, I wouldn't say that. I certainly wouldn't cuss on a podcast.
It's fine. You just talked about being hard.
I never actually said that. I insinuated it, and you just did. Well done, Mike. Yeah, I don't want to go that far to say this bullshit. It's just not the gold standard. It's not. I have a high value for the science and the scientific method and research and in the academy.
Because someone's the PhD.
Also, I appreciate that work. So I don't know that it's bullshit, but it can, if anything else, if it gets you to be more curious about yourself and others in relationships, then I'm here for it. And if it helps lead you to some therapy, especially a therapist, even better. So yay for the online.
I'm giggling to myself, imagining anyone wanting to come to therapy with us now.
First of all, I'm sure they would be expecting it to be served with cocktail. So you misunderstood this.
Yes. All right. So with the AAI, tell us a little bit about what it reveals about secure attachment.
Well, one of the things that undergirds the measure, the test, if you will, the instrument, Is that what you called it? Yeah.
No, inventory.
No, inventory. Okay, yeah. It's pulling from linguistics. And that's a whole body of research, yada, yada, yada. And the idea is that when we have conversations about our lives, is the conversation that we're having coherent? Is it cohesive? Is it congruent? And we have various principles from linguistics that we pull. But we see, I think, in Marcus and Luca's conversation, reflecting on their childhoods, reflecting on their developmental sort of trajectory that got them to this very moment. Why did you get into the cooking world?
How long have you been a cook? Yeah. How'd you get there?
Yep. First of all, people who reflect upon their lives is an indication of security of attachment. Certainly not the only variable, but you can find folks that sort of refuse to reflect, have difficulty reflecting, shut down the reflection, are very guarded in the reflection, or when they are doing the reflection, they get lost in it and they take these dips and turns and get sort of distracted. And those are sort of indications of the insecurity of attachment. But security of attachment tends to be indicative of people who, A, will reflect upon their lives, will reflect upon their lives as having a story and having a process. When they reflect upon their lives, they will tell it in a fresh way rather than in a sort of canned, oh, here's the one way I tell my story of who I am. And I think you see that in Marcus and Lucas's conversations.
Yeah. What do you see specifically in Marcus there? Like how he tells his story? Like what are the hallmarks there that you see of security?
Well, I think he certainly means what he says. It says what he means. And while coherence doesn't always mean linearity, but there is a degree of linearity. And the listener listening to Marcus's story, I don't think you're going to be all that confused.
Right.
It's clear, it's direct.
Emotion was involved, but it wasn't overly reactive. Yeah. So there's a sadness about missing the game of football and playing and going to college with it.
And the delight in how much he loved it, the reverie
Yeah. And his ability to stay playful, as they talked about with Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. And yeah, just to play with it all. I think what to kind of counter that in session, if I'm with a client and I'm doing their initial evaluation or something, and I'm trying to assess whether they're on the spectrum of, dismissive attachment, anxiously attached, disorganized, or secure. Some of the hallmarks I'll see is when I talk about family history, and I'll ask about, what was your relationship like with your father? And one of the classic ones for dismissive is like, it was fine. My dad went to all my games. I didn't want for anything. It was fine. It's just a bam, bam, bam. Really no big emotional swing at all. It's kind of flat affect, just flat presentation about it.
Yeah, we from borrowing from the AAI's scoring methodology, we would say that was a very concise description, but it wasn't very complete.
Yeah.
It wasn't whole. It was too little.
Right.
And that too little is very congruent with the dismissive avoidant attachment class.
It's very telling.
Yes.
Absolutely. And then the anxious attachment, we'll get just a different story. We'll get 5 stories. and why they're important. And that's what I find in my couples work. I do an initial session with a couple, and then I'll see them both separately for one individual session, and I'll do an attachment oriented intake. And when one of them is anxiously attached, what I find is we get to the end of the session and I'm like, we haven't even got to a few of the questions yet. Because the stories are longer, they're more in depth, they trail off and circle back or they start protecting their parent and why they did what they did. But they were doing this and I had to do that and they didn't come to my games, but
it may be stretching, but the idea as we see Marcus as securely attached is he's being both complete and concise.
Mm-hmm.
He's telling enough details to give you a flavor, a feel.
You can feel it.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
Yet it's also concise,
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't distract. It doesn't overwhelm a listener or his conversational partner, Luca. Yeah. It doesn't crowd out Luca so that there's space for Luca to tell his story or for Marcus to ask Luca to contribute and
engage, go back and forth. Yeah. It was a really lovely scene. And so much the fact that it seemed, it wasn't uninteresting, but I remember watching it with you and thinking like, well, what did you take from that? It was just a good conversation.
Yeah.
Which can often be what happens with securely attached. There's no really big swings. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we didn't talk about this previously, but I will take this moment. Especially since the bear has such an addictions theme for it. That the family that's central to the show is rife with addiction, and all of the Al-Anon work that's in the show. One of the things I find that happens in 12-step communities and in AA meetings or 12-step meetings is the invitation for people to tell their story. And it's these addicts, whether they're addicts of drugs and alcohol or addicts in the form of codependency and the human condition, they're being invited to reflect upon their life and get perspective. And they do it over and over and over across years throughout their sobriety. And
are they invited to get perspective?
Well, I think that's, I don't know if that's the direct invitation.
Okay.
It is one of the results, I think, that comes with the way 12 steps is structured, working all of the 12 steps. One of the results is that the way that they tell their story grows in reflective capacities or qualities, and that they grow in their capacity to see how they used to think and how they think now. And that's a perspective taking.
Sure.
That's a way of becoming more coherent and cohesive. And it's something that we see congruent in people who are securely attached when they're reflecting upon their lives and their childhood, that they understand themselves as, I used to think this way, and I understand why I used to think that way. And now I think this way, and I understand why I think this way, as well as I understand why others think X, Y, and Z. Right? Like,
and we have space for that. We're not challenged by it.
We're not so reactive to it. And that's what in attachment theory we would call reflective capacities or a reflective function. And so we see, I think, in this series, when people are telling their story, the Carney's telling his story, this is that I'm trying to gain a degree of coherence of my mind a coherence of who I am and how I came to be. And in Luca and Marcus's, they're reflecting on how they came to be.
Right.
And that's just so congruent with security of attachment when you can do that well, defined by various.
Right. It's interesting to think of Carmi telling his story. And when you watch him in the previous episode and he opens the monologue speaking to the AA group or the Al-Anon group, he presents as confused as he's exploring his mind. And not fully connected with it.
That's beautiful, yes. And there's also sort of kind of a quick wrap up. So anyways, thanks y'all for letting me.
And I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. It wraps up in about, it's so congruent with the dismissive attachment.
Yeah.
Or just insecurity of attachment. Whereas contrasted in this episode, where Marcus and Luca are reflecting on their lives, there aren't those kinds of, so anyways, that got awkward. They just beautifully navigate the ups and downs, the failures, the challenges, the successes, in just a really lovely, securely attached way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is our goal, I think, and our hope for all of our patients as we work with them, is that there's a way in which they can be at rest, be at peace with
who they are and who they are with others,
and how they came to be and where they are right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And reflective functioning, reflective dialogues is essentially what we're doing in therapy. We can go on and on, I think. Reflective conversations with your partners, your romantic partners, or reflective kinds of conversations with your children, where you're reflecting on a shared experience. We did it, I think, a little earlier. We were at an event called Oktoberfest, as to when we're recording this episode. And you were reflecting on what kind of experience I seem to be having. Right? And so security of attachment seems to be indicated, seems to evoke, seems to facilitate a way of reflecting on shared experiences and a way of being curious about each other's experience of each other, of the same experience, and the sharing of our experience of ourselves. And this is what the attachments literature is meaning by reflective dialogue. I just disciplined or chastised or reacted strongly to my child, and then later we find ourselves having a conversation reflecting on my reaction, their experience, our mutual subjective experiences, and can reflect on how we wished it would have gone,
right?
Acknowledging each other's subjective experience. Oh, you saw it that way.
Well, it's a felt sense of safety to be able to zoom out and look at the whole picture.
Our way of saying reflection, is zooming out.
Yeah.
And I think we see that so beautifully in this episode in a way that I don't think we see in many other episodes. I think we get
we get a break in this episode. We get to take a deep breath, be calm, enjoy the scenery. Yeah. Not forever though.
Yeah.
Winter is coming.
That's right. Opening day is coming.
Yes. All right. What a great episode.
It was lovely.
How peaceful to swim around in security.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, until next time, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Michael.